Hello, and thanks for joining us for yet another Grand Entrevista. My name is Jennifer Ferreira, and with me now is Toronto Catholic District School Board Trustee for Ward 6, Frank D'Amico. Thanks so much for joining us for our Easter special today, Frank.
Thank you for having me.
If we could start by you telling us a bit about your role as trustee for Ward 6 of the Toronto Catholic District School Board. What is the significance of this role to you?
When I first got elected, I was more of an activist. And then when you get into the board, you realize that now you're part of a corporation, and now you have to defend the corporation. So, I find myself a little bit in a position where I want to help you. At the same time, I have to preserve the board and make sure that the board is, goes on. And like any corporation, you want it to be bigger and better, and better for everyone, for all the students. But I also like, I feel bad about the little person sometimes that need a little bit extra help. Myself, when I was a kid, my parents would just bring me to school in September, register me, and I would have to just go into the school, and that's it. I was stuck there for 6 years, till grade 6, then moved to the next school. But nowadays, you have to make sure that you're within the boundaries, first of all. Like, they changed a lot in the last 30, 40 years. You need to make sure that you are within the boundaries. So you would have to call the school to make sure that there's space available. Some schools, they don't have space. And then, parents will call me and they'll say, hey, I just moved into this area. I spoke with the principal at that school, and they tell me there's no space for my kid. So now, as a trustee, that falls on us. So now I have to figure out a way of helping this parent out.
Focusing a little more on the accomplishments, one of the largest projects that you've been involved with thus far is the construction of a new facility for St. John the Evangelist Catholic School. And so what prompted this project?
What prompted the project is immediately after I was elected in 2010, I spoke with some of the superintendents there, and they're telling me, oh, Frank, you have a nice ward, everything's fine. And then I looked at them, and they were mourning, and they were saying, oh, the St. John the Evangelist issue. And I'm like, what's this St. John the Evangelist issue? They were over capacity. They had 600 students inside of a school that was built for 300. So they had to add portables, 10 portables, plus they had rooms in the church next door, St. John the Evangelist Church, that they were leasing out or renting out. So they had 4 classrooms inside the church as well. It was too much. So I attended several meetings with the parent council at the school, and they were very, very vocal, and they were advocating, for a new addition for their school. Now, this is the tricky part. I'm a new trustee. I'm dealing with a lot of seasoned veteran trustees in there that all want their own new schools in their own area. So I had to, go up to each trustee and ask them, hey, how do I get a new school? How do I get a new school? And they all kind of gave me a little bit of advice. So I had a lot of help. I had full support from all the trustees as well. Now, the province, what gives us the funding for the new schools, that was the obstacle as well. So I would always set a meeting with the MPP and say, hey, listen, we need a new school. The MPP was willing to give us a new school, but we had to give them some reports on the status of the school. And the status of the school, back then, it wasn't even a priority at that time. It wasn't a top priority. Believe it or not, when we became the top priority of the board, finally the province gave us close to $6 million to build a new addition to St. John the Evangelist. And I was excited about that. And I said, you know what? This happened. I wasn't even elected 9 months. And now, the St. John the Evangelist issue that's been going on for over 40 years, trying to get a new school, within 9 months of me being elected, they have funding for a new addition. Once we received funding for the new addition, the community said, hey, we want a new school. I'm like, this is, you got your new addition. Why not get a new school? It would be nice. We have a school that's over 100 years old. Who knows what, what the condition of all the stuff is in there. So, I was really advocating for a state-of-the-art school, and with the support of the community. We even had the city councilor. The city councilor was on board, said that she would do whatever is needed, to help out. We finally did get funding, full funding. There's another $6 million came. I think it was 2012. So within 2 years, we had full funding for a new school. Then, out of something else really creepy happened, they discovered a cemetery that was theirs pre-Confederation. They found over 150 bodies that were buried behind St. John the Evangelist Church, which was on the original plans that were supposed to be part of our school. So now they had to readjust those plans. So, this is where the delays come in, because now they have to, get people in there to make sure they know all these, who the bodies belong to,
right.
What they're going to do with it.
Right.
So we had some talks with the Archdiocese, and so they declared it a cemetery and a closed cemetery, so we can't do nothing there. So now the project was delayed a little bit longer. But, thank God it's moving forward, and I'm hoping that I will still be around in November. It's scheduled to be open in November. So it would be nice, since I was there from the beginning, to be a part of it.
So one major issue facing students board-wide is that of busing. A report recently came out highlighting that the Toronto Catholic District School Board is providing busing to over 7,000 students who don't necessarily qualify for it, something that results in about $1 million worth of costs, as well as late buses. Can you speak on this? Why would something like this be happening?
I don't like that. I actually voted against it. It's whoever's...
Sorry, voted against what?
I voted against not giving the buses. I want all those 7,000 students to have busing. So, to save $1 million, if you look at the funding we get per student, we get just close to $11,000 per student. So if you're looking, we lose, 1,000 students. Do the math. That's 7,000. 7,000 students. We could probably be losing. I don't have a calculator with me.
No, but
it's
doing the simple math, it's quite a large amount.
That's right. If we lose 10% of those students, there goes a lot of funding that we would have got. So I think that's what we're saving $1 million by cutting this 7,000 students from getting bus services. So, at the end of the day, if those students decide, oh, you know what, I can't bring my kid to the school, so we're going to have to go to a school closer to us.
And perhaps in a different board as well.
In a different board as well, that's right. And so we're going to lose, $10,000 from each student. If we lose, 1,000 kids, $10 million that we lose to save $1 million. The math isn't there as a corporate board. We should be looking at that.
And so what you're saying essentially is that the pros here outweigh the cons, even if you do have to pay an extra $1 million.
Yes, I think, we're trying to reduce it. And if we could, there's a lot of other options we should be looking at. I prefer before and after school programs, because if we have before and after school programs that begin the earlier they begin, the better. So a couple of hours before school starts, parents that have to go to work early can drop their kids off early. They can go to the library, they can go to the gym, they can do their homework,
It's a safe
they can
space.
study. That's right. So they have like that 2-hour window where they don't need the bus anymore. Now they can say, oh, well, I can bring them to school myself. Then after school, sometimes there's a lot of traffic, you're running late, so you need the bus to drive them home, because you won't make it to the school on time, especially if you have 2 or 3 kids, and you have to drive them all to different areas. We encourage other things. There are some good trustees out there that have wonderful ideas. They have walking school bus, where the kids, to relieve congestion in front of the school, they'll find a safer location beside the school where the buses can park, drop off the kids, and then they all walk to school, and the kids get exercise at the same time. But you don't want to do that in a snowstorm or a nice storm, depending on the weather that you get. There's pros and cons, and I don't think we should be jumping the gun and just doing this drastically, because you know what? You'll see in September, October, when the parents, they're going to come back to the board, they're going to complain. I'm not going to say I told you so, because I'm pretty quiet usually. So I just, what? You'll see some of the trustees are going to say, well, give them busing. And we do have a little bit of extra money this year's budget, so, maybe it'll go towards that.
What are the schools in your ward doing when it comes to bullying or violence prevention in general?
So what we'll do is we'll have, and I have it in 2 schools, where the grade 8s, when they come into grade 9, they're met by someone that's already there in grade 9 or grade 10 that will be with them, throughout. So you're a student in grade 8 coming into grade 9. When you're in grade 9, now you're also with someone that's in grade 10 or grade 11 or 12, and they're going to be mentoring you into the school. So you have a friend, and so this way, those relationships build. You're not going into the school alone. And this is something very, fairly new, I think the last 2 or 3 years. So there's probably no statistics on it. So that's something we're going to look at. But, it seems like it's a very nice program, because, you have friends, new students coming into the school. They're going to make friends with students already. So.
You mentioned perhaps not having statistics just yet, but I guess from your interactions with students and from what you've seen, does it seem like this program is something that will help in the long run?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's, it stops bullying in a way that, you have a new student coming to the school and nobody knows who you are, and, you're not going to socialize with people you don't know. So when you're actually mentored by somebody, then at least you know somebody in that school, and it kind of gets rid of the, the stigmatization that.
And some of the fear as well.
Exactly. Hopefully we can get rid of it all eventually. I have my Loretto College girls, they do an annual peace walk, and I've been on those whenever I can. I walk with them, and they've made me walk with suits on, and the police are with us, the 13th Division. They join us on the walks, and sometimes it rains. Me with my suit, I'll just keep marching. I didn't realize they were going to take us on this long, long walk. But
can you tell me a bit about some of the Childcare Expansion initiatives that are going on in schools within your ward?
Okay, I've been to 2 events where the ministry, 3 events, where the ministry has given funding to our schools. One of them wasn't my school. One of them was a school just north of me, but because I was the vice chairman of the board, I was invited to that event, and it was given by the present Minister of Education. I've interacted with her, at least 2 or 3 times, and they were all positive. The first time they announced, into the millions, like maybe 1.5 million in childcare spaces. This was last year or 2 years ago. Then they announced in my ward, they announced I had 3 schools. So Santa Maria was a big one. They received 1.5 million, 40 spaces, 40 new spaces. So that was nice. And, I'm glad about that because there's only so much money. Now, we received others, funding another 40 spaces at Blessed Pope Paul VI, another 1.5 million. And then we received another 40 spaces at St. Nicholas of Bari. So that's another 1.5 million. So, we got, I don't know, I might have my numbers mixed up. I think one of them might be 1 million. But we got like over $3 million in funding, 120 spaces, at least 120 new spaces, over $3 million in funding for these spaces in those 3 schools. Now, those 3 schools happen to be like 3 or 4 blocks from each other. So it's like a little triangle. And so it's going to benefit 120 families in that area.
Now, back in the day, you yourself attended Darcy McGee Catholic School right
Yes.
here in Toronto.
Yes.
So how do you compare your experience at that Catholic school to the experience that you see students within your ward getting today?
Okay, so I guess one of the biggest issue would be today's technology. We have the pagers, well, we're
Used
beyond
to.
that. So you have these iPhones, the technology. Students today have technology. They can see things live while the teacher's speaking. They'll be searching those words right off the bat, saying, oh yeah, like this person was a historian, so, it's a different way of learning that I think it's still changing as we speak, as opposed to when I was in school, where they just keep repeating stuff over and over so that it sticks into your head. So now, and you know what? When I was in grade 5, I believe, or grade 4, they used to have these giant calculators that were like this big. We weren't even allowed to use calculators when we did math in elementary school. But now they give you problems, and you're allowed to use calculators. And
In addition to your job as a trustee, you also serve as a member of the Canadian Forces.
I do.
And how do you go about balancing both jobs along with all your other responsibilities?
That's a good question. I enjoy serving. When I joined the military, I was 30 years old, and it's a healthy lifestyle that I like. But I enjoy peacekeeping aspects of being in the military. Humanitarian missions where, whether it's shoveling snow for the mayor or, bringing sandbags, to somebody that's expecting a flood, or helping out in the Philippines with, the DART team, Disaster Assistance Relief Team. I enjoy that. That's why I joined the military. I like serving, and serving as well as a school trustee. It helps me out a little bit that not only am I serving my country, I'm also serving my community. When they find out that I am in the military, when they see me in my uniform, they want to invite me over for Remembrance Day ceremonies. And I try to go. It's hard because all the schools are celebrating it at the same time.
Of course.
And when I was a kid watching it, I would see my MP, laying a wreath. And I would always watch it. It was on, CP24. And, when I got elected, I realized that, hey, wait a minute, I'm the elected official for the school board. I could be laying a wreath here as well. So I made some inquiries. I contacted the Legion, and they supplied a wreath for the Toronto Catholic District School Board. And I'm happy to say that I brought the wreath there on behalf of the Toronto Catholic District School Board for the first time. I believe it was 2012. And I went a step further. The following year, I invited the school student trustee, the Toronto Catholic District School Board student trustee. And he helped me lay the wreath as well, and he loved it. It was a wonderful experience for him as well. And the following year after that, I invited principals and students. I said,
You're
hey,
getting
come.
everyone involved.
Yes. So now when we go there, there's no room for me to lay the wreath because there's too many people. And so we got to get another wreath. Well, I got the unions involved as well. We have the elementary union, and maybe next year we're going to bring the secondary union.
Wow.
And they lay a wreath now every year. And, the money goes to support the legions, but also it's good to encourage, a lot of the younger generation to remember the real heroes that were there in Canada's, greatest time of need.
How long have you been serving with the forces so far?
This is my 20th year.
Wow.
I received the Canadian decoration for 12 years of service, and I received the Diamond Jubilee as well for the Queen's 60th anniversary. So I have 2 medals, and I'm hoping that I'll be there a little bit longer to get a flask as well.
And so to end us off, the elections for this year are scheduled for October 22nd. Will you be running again?
I will be running again. There's a lot of things that I still need, to see done. I hope that, the public likes what I'm doing, and I hope that they will give me the opportunity to keep serving, as I do enjoy it. It's, a lot of people say it's not a thankful job. Why do you want to do it? But I like it. I'm always on my phone answering emails, calling people back. Sometimes I lose track of time, and I'll call somebody back after 11, and I have to apologize. I lost track of time. They appreciate it. I try my best to help people out. So I'm hoping that pays off, and we can see the new school built. I'd love to be a part of that, and I think if I did run, it'd probably be my last time running, and I'd consider maybe going higher office federally or provincially. But for now, I'm comfortable where I am. Spring and Easter bring us the message of hope and new life. Just as Jesus died and rose again, Easter is time for all of us to reflect on how we can be reborn as a better version of ourselves. On behalf of all of us at the Toronto Catholic District School Board, I extend my best wishes to your viewers for a truly happy, healthy, and joyful Easter season. Happy Easter. Boa Pascua.
Thank you for tuning in to yet another Grande Entrevista. My name is Jennifer Ferreira. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Frank, for joining us today. And from everyone here at Correio de Manhã, Canada, we wish you a happy Easter.